In this video, we're going to be covering some major news on the NFT markets, some major updates on some of our favorite blue chips, as well as some upcoming projects. And we're also going to be giving you an update on what's going on with the Parallax NFT. All right, so the first thing we're going to cover is what's going on with the market sentiment. So for the past, I would say like week or two or so, the market's kind of been trading sideways where there's been little pumps and then it kind of just drops after that. Over the last 7 days, we kind of see Ethereum, it was like 1.2 and then now it's at like 1. So it's kind of in that range of like 900 to like 1.2 and kind of trading sideways, which is not a bad thing, right? It's better than completely dropping. But again, because of the way the world is and a lot of macro pressures, I would kind of feel like Ethereum and the rest of the crypto market can actually go down from here. So you want to be very careful on when you enter and exit into different opportunities. And when we're looking at all the volume that's happening on OpenSea, essentially, for the most part, a lot of the blue chip projects are kind of trading sideways. And even though, certain projects like Azuki or Doodles had like a really successful NFT NYC, we don't see like this major pump that we would typically see during a bull market. Things are just kind of like pumping a little bit and then trading sideways. And obviously, even during a bear market, there are people who are going to create these meme projects where everybody's just kind of like aping in. So if you look at like Dope Ape Club, I don't even know what this is, but it's getting like a ton of volume, right? You're always going to get these kind of projects pumping in, and then, a lot of times they just dump later. That's pretty normal, even during a bear market, right? So there's different ways to make money during a bear market, and going into meme projects is definitely one of them if you have that skill set. All right, so the first project we're going to be talking about today is going to be Doodles. Now, as we talked about in the previous video last week, Doodles is obviously launching Doodles 2, which is going to be an NFT that's going to be much more mainstream, right? So when we are going on OpenSea, the total supply is going to be 24K, so they're trying to get more people into the ecosystem. For the Genesis box, so what people speculate this is going to be clothes for your Doodles, right? I think what's going to be is the clothes that are going to come from this box are going to mimic some of the clothes that the traits that are in the original Genesis collection. And I'm sure if this brand continues to build for years to come, there's going to be all types of different clothes like every single season, right? And so the Genesis obviously may be worth the most because it's one of the first experiments in this, right? And so when people actually wanted to mint this box over here, it was actually like a bidding process where you had to bid a certain amount of ETH, and I think the final auction price was going to be 0.508. So that was the minimum price that you had to pay for one of these boxes. And then if you don't pay enough, then you don't win. And then if you do pay enough, you do win. Right now for everyone who did mint the box, yeah, they're a little bit down when it comes to the floor price, but floors fluctuate up and down all the time. So, as long as you don't sell, you're not really losing money quite yet. So the bidding process, in my opinion, was quite interesting because you see people like Prinksy and on over here, they bid like 290 ETH and then they got like, 570 boxes and things like that. In a way, these kind of bids, they're really good for a company because they maximize the amount of revenue a company can generate. So you're literally just saying like, hey, bid as much as you want. Whoever bids the most, they're going to get it, right? And so in a way, you're kind of maximizing your revenue by charging as much money as people are willing to pay for it. So from a business perspective, instead of, charging a low price and the company collecting a small fee, and then a lot of flippers making a lot of money on top of that, and it just like this whole trading thing that happens, what companies can do is they can charge the maximum amount and let the people fight against each other and then take all the revenue for themselves. And then pretty much anybody who's minted, they might be in the red because of this method, but there's more funds for the company to continue to build. So in the long term, maybe that investment might be worth it in the end because they have more resources to develop. But there's different perspectives on that. But in my personal opinion, the bidding is probably going to be the next meta, like for the next few months, where people are going to battle against each other and see who bids the most. Whereas before it was like the Dutch auction where you start with a high price and it goes down. For this type of bidding, it's starting low and then it's going up. And I think that's going to be the new trend moving forward. It's pretty much the same thing, but in this way you're maximizing up. So quite interesting. So the next project that we're going to be covering is going to be Gossamer Seed. And this one was a relatively unknown one. If you don't, it's like kind of like a new brand that's coming out. What I'm going to do for this project is I'm going to use an analysis that was written by our community member in the Parallax, Sung. And if you didn't know, we have a Genesis Alpha call channel within the Parallax, and it's only going to be for holders. And essentially we have different people in our community who are pretty good at calling things out or sharing their perspective, although it's not financial advice, and just giving reasons for why they're buying certain things, right? And so Sung actually did a little write-up, quite a bit of Gossamer Seeds, and he wanted to share his perspective on why he's personally bullish on it. So Gossamer is an IP which started out as a book. The author of the book is going to be Lewis Laurie, who also wrote The Giver. I'm not really familiar with that book, but I'm sure it's something. They want to turn it into a like animation TV series, possibly a game in the future. Now the main key points of why Sung believes that this might be an interesting project is because the studio that's backing Gossamer is going to be Braun. And Braun is actually a studio that's focused on creating content. And if we see just from their Twitter page that they have like the House of Gucci, I think they have Joker on there, Ghostbusters, the Addams Family too. So, there's a lot of different like productions that they put together. And these are like actually good productions that are mainstream worldwide hits. They also have decentralized investment group BAYC from Dubai, and then XYZZY Game Studio. So, they already have the gaming studio on board. they got the IP on board, they got the studio on board. So basically they did all this work up front. Now they have an NFT, right? So it's not like a random person just came out and said, hey, we're gonna do an NFT project, buy my thing, right? It's like, this is obviously they've been building it for months before they even launch an NFT project. So that's always a good plus. And also you're taking a successful Web 2 presence or company and they're moving into NFTs, right? And so they have the backing, they have the expertise, they can hire the right people if they don't have any expertise in certain areas within NFTs. So the chances of it succeeding or having a narrative that people believe that it will succeed, it's higher than, the average project. So now we talked about some of the bullish perspectives, but let's go ahead and talk about the bearish perspectives, because there's always two sides to the story, right? And I'm not saying you should buy this or shouldn't buy this. It's not financial advice. It's just giving me different perspectives. Now, yes, they have a studio behind them. They got a gaming studio. They got the studio to do like the animation, which is cool, but there's some other things to look at. For example, for the game itself, from my understanding, based on the research, it's going to be an MMORPG. And like I always say before, MMORPGs are the most difficult type of games to build. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of people or a lot of studios will spend years creating an MMO because it's so complex when it comes to like the leveling up, creating open world, creating all the game mechanics to make sure it's balanced, right? This is actually very difficult. And if you ever studied video games and what it actually takes to make a game, MMOs are like eating glass. For them to create an MMO, well, one, it's actually pretty hard. And number two, is the IP going to be strong enough to compete with the likes of, let's say, like Lost Ark, Final Fantasy, Blizzard, with World of Warcraft? These are the type of people that they're competing against. It's hard, right? So just because a company is a crypto company or NFT company, it doesn't mean that their game will actually be fun. So that's something you have to be very careful of. And if you support an MMORPG, you are basically taking the bet that this game is not going to come out for like at least like 1 or 2 years, right? Minimum 1, if they can even do it within 1, which is actually super difficult. If you kind of do buy this, understand that if the game is going to take a long time and you don't even know if it's going to come out, then you might have to trade on narrative of whether or not people believe the game will be good. And you have to watch your enter and exit strategy, because if you're not really interested in playing Gossamer as a MMORPG, then there's no point in waiting for the game. Now for the show, I can understand that, like to create a show like on Netflix or something, it seems much more manageable and reasonable. You can also package a show and sell it to Netflix at a profit. There actually is revenue generator opportunities over there from the TV series side, just because Netflix have been known to just like buy a project and like a project can like profit like right away. So there's definitely that side. But for the game itself, a little bit skeptical on my front, because I haven't seen enough to show me that this is going to be like something that someone would put down World of Warcraft and to play Gossamer, right? And by the way, if you want the latest alpha, make sure to follow me on Twitter at PatrickGang. Link is also in the description. Now the next project we're going to talk about is going to be our project, the Parallax Genesis, right? The Parallax Genesis has not been revealed. The review will probably come in 2 weeks. We're going to have an official day probably sooner as we get closer there. I don't want to promise anything and then like have it change it, but around 2 weeks from now is when I believe we will actually do the reveal. Now I kind of want to go over some interesting stats that I kind of been following along for this project using this tool NFTi that I recently just heard about, although not sponsored, but sounds pretty interesting because a lot of people have been talking about it in our Discord. Now when it comes to the holders, I found that there are some people that have been accumulating Parallax Genesis NFTs, right? This 77 over here, that's going to be the community team wallet, and I haven't distributed to the team yet, so there's a bunch in that wallet. The second biggest holder is going to be 13, 10, 8, 7, and then there's actually quite a bit of people that have 2 of these, right? And we also see from this NBCP, which is going to be the next blue chip probability, although it's just like a number, it's just like the percentage of owners who have at least 1 blue chip NFT according to this data, right? So if you look at different platforms, they're probably going to have different data. So because what is a blue chip kind of depends on what people define as blue chip, but it says that 36% of the people who have the Parallax Genesis also have a blue chip, which is actually pretty good because it kind of just shows that they have like good NFTs and they also hold the Parallax Genesis, right? Although just because you have blue chip doesn't mean you're a quality member, because like some people don't have a blue chip but they are still quality, right? Or maybe they're holding the Parallax Genesis on a different wallet and this can't even pick up if they have a blue chip. So for me personally, I'm not somebody that just like looks at floor all the time, because I don't think floor is the best indicator of like whether a project is good or not. But I will say for our community so far over the past couple weeks that since we've minted, it's been pretty strong. Like people have been sharing a lot of alpha. We've been trying to implement different things when it comes to spotlighting different members within our community. So like for example, this video, we shout out Sung, who is helping us with the alpha calls as a Genesis alpha caller, and that's completely like community run in a sense, right? So he doesn't take payment for it. It's just like something he wants to do. And I feel like over time in the future, something I'm really thinking about is a lot of people I found in our community want to build in the Web3 space. They want to contribute in the Web3 space. They want to put their, dip their toe in and try to get more involved, right? And so what I'm going to try to do in the future is find different ways to give them a platform, give them a shout out, drive some of our attention on YouTube or wherever platforms that we have into them, so that whatever it is that they're trying to do, they can kind of get a little head start, a little boost as they do that. And also, some people want to start their own project projects and things like that. So definitely having certain meetings with different people within our community, right, if they're a holder, just to give them some advice and certain perspectives. And we'll probably have a channel for builders and things like that to kind of communicate and like help them out a little bit more, and for me to share my experience and other people to share their experience. So that's something definitely interesting. I would say it's a more of a builders contributor type of community. So if that interests you at all, check out the Parallax Genesis. And of course, like, you don't have to buy one. We do have channels out for free, so you can check it out in general and see the other channels to see if it's the right fit for you. So moving forward, we're actually going to be talking about a more independent creator, not necessarily a big company, and that's going to be Sire Don't Play. So this is quite an interesting guy where I met this person at a Azuki party during my time at NFT NYC, and then he was telling me that he was like an NFT artist, like a rapper and things like that. And I actually was familiar with his work just because I saw like a bunch of Azuki people like retweeting this and liking this. So essentially, like, he makes like these kind of songs, and then like they kind of play off like the whole NFT theme. So it's quite interesting. He's definitely up and coming for sure, and he's been selling NFTs as an independent artist, which is dope. And I think one opportunity for this independent artist to improve like his NFT project is that, yes, you can mint the project and you support him as an artist, which is absolutely great. But then from there, it's not very clear, like, once you mint, like, what do you actually get beyond, let's say, like an MP3 file that's in the form of like Ethereum. I think to create a better narrative as an independent artist, I would recommend saying like, okay, if you mint this particular NFT, which is like an MP4 file, whatever, like, what is going to be the future utility of that? Do you get special access to certain things? And I think if he planned out a vision of how things can stack and accrue, or the benefits of holding these NFTs can accrue over time, it would invite more people to want to purchase, because it makes it more like a fun game versus just supporting an artist, right? Now, supporting an artist and like buying an album on like iTunes, which is great, right? That definitely does work, and then you can own it, then you can sell it. So that's already better than just buying an MP3 that you can't sell. But if you took it to the next level and offered some kind of community benefits or some kind of Discord, some kind of things where you can like connect with the artist at a deeper level, or maybe have a FaceTime with the artist, that would be pretty cool, right? And so now, obviously, I'm not like an expert when it comes to like music management, but it's just some thoughts that I have top of mind. Now, the next project we're going to talk about is going to be an upcoming NFT project, and it's going to be Operatin Sin. Now, if you have been on Twitter recently, you probably have seen this kind of like imagery for a while. So it kind of reminds you of Spawn in a way, where it's like this dark, the eyes and the character, or even like Venom from Spider-Man. Pretty much like this is super hype, right? Like, it's quite cryptic. When you're kind of like outside looking in, you're not really sure what's going on, right? It's like, why are people liking this? Why are there so many like Twitter Spaces AMAs like run by the community? So yeah, I have done more research into it, and it's a lot deeper than people may realize. Like, I feel like for this kind of stuff, they're creating like really strong aesthetics, a certain style that's very stands out quite a lot in the NFT space, because it takes that Sin City Spawn look and then applies it to the NFT world. And then from there, you might be thinking, oh, like, this is an IP brand, this is like a comic, this is maybe is a Netflix series one day, right? So it feels like this IP kind of play. But when I dug deeper into it more, I found that it's really about connection, right? And from what people tell me who are really involved in the community, it's like a very like pretty exterior to get people interested. And then once they're interested, it's all about connecting people, especially during dark times for a lot of people during the bear, where maybe a lot of people lost a lot of money and things like that. From my understanding, they're trying to build the community, put them together, and show people that they're not alone, right? And so it's quite deep in a sense. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, check out their Discord, check out the AMAs that they do once in a while. They have a lot of community run AMAs as well. And I'm not saying I know everything about this project, but I did talk to the founder, Hato, and it seems like a pretty nice guy. So definitely check out Operatin Sin if you are interested. All right, so the next piece of news that we're going to be talking about is going to be this company called Board Jobs. So you know how there's a lot of people who have the IP rights to kind of like use their ape for commercial uses, and a lot of people, they have an ape, or maybe they have like a different NFT that is valuable, but they don't really want to put in the work to use it and build a brand on top of it. Now, what they can actually do is license it to like kind of like sub-license it to another person, and that person will help you monetize that ape in different ways. That's pretty much what this company Board Jobs is doing. They're kind of taking your ape, or maybe it's going to be an Azuki one day, or your Doodle, or whatever it is, right, as they expand, and then they're going to be putting it in different pockets where you can actually make money from like a licensing fee or a royalty. And I'm not saying I promote this company or not, because like I haven't done too much research on like Board Jobs and who the founders are and things like that. But from a conceptual level, I think in the future, what we're going to see is we're going to see these like independent agency or maybe large organizations who will go out, try to get as much IP under their umbrella as possible, and then they'll shop it around to different people and be like, hey, you're opening a restaurant, hey, you're doing animation, have you ever thought about using a Bored Ape in your Netflix series? And they'll be like, oh, I never thought of that, how much does it cost? And then that might be a way for people to, make revenue streams and monetize from a licensing model, which is interesting to me, because Bored Ape continues to build their license, their brand, and more people know them. more people will want to use them within their like TV show, anime, video game, or whatever, right? And by a company creating a legitimate way to like use the rights to these things and kind of act as a middleman, as a holder, I'm not a holder, but if you did have one, you can just be like, hey, I want to make like some kind of income from my Bored Ape so that it's just not just sitting in my vault. So go ahead and use the imagery and whatever, and then just like pay me every month, right? And I can definitely see that moving forward in the future. It's quite a new concept right now, but like 5 years from now, I feel like this will be like extremely common, especially if NFTs, you know, some of the top projects like really make a stamp in the world, which I believe they will. So definitely something interesting. And by the way, for the Parallax as a company, we're always looking for different type of coverage for different NFT news or what's going on in the market. So let me know in the comments what type of content you want to see. Do you want to see upcoming projects, update on blue chip projects? You know, let me know in the comments and we'll definitely hear your suggestions. And so as I said, that's everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, make sure to follow me on Twitter at Patrick Dang, and I will see you guys in the next one.